The minutes, the agenda has been previously distributed. Why don't we first item of business is approval of the minutes from our January 13, 2026 meeting. The draft was shared with everyone. Are there any objections or any comments in respect to the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, are there any objections to approval of the minutes? Okay. With that, the minutes are hereby approved. Get rid of the motions on some very simple things here. Next agenda, any comments or concerns regarding today's meeting agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is also adopted. And we'll move into item 4, which are reports. First item, we have a regulations update. That be you, Kat?
Yes, hi,
Good
good
morning.
morning. There's nothing new to report, I'm afraid. It's still being the regulations are still being reviewed by DCP. I'm sorry, I don't have anything new to report.
No, well, that's an update. It's good to know either way. Thank you. Next item, the State Board of Accountancy newsletter, and I think Sohair would like to say a few comments about the newsletter.
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning again, everyone. As you all may be aware, the Connecticut State Board of Accountancy newsletter went out on February 10th of this year. And I just want to thank the members of this board, as well as the DCP staff and the NASBA communications teams for their contributions. It was truly a collaborative effort. It was teamwork. Thank you again.
Okay, well, thank you, Sohair, for spearheading the process, connecting with DCP, and DCP was very helpful in sharing the information that we thought would be important to share with our CPA community. And I think as we had discussed, the thought process is this would be something we try to do at least twice a year. And certainly on a go-forward basis, when the time comes for the next newsletter, we'll be asking for your input on things that you think we should be highlighting to our community. Certainly, if there's reg updates and those sort of things, they'll be high on the list. But anything else that you think would benefit our CPA community would be helpful. So again, thank you, Sohair, for that, and thank you all for your input as well, and your timely review for us to be able to get that out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is House Bill 5222. I see Bonnie's on. She may have some comments on this. I'll kind of kick it off, and I think everyone is fully aware of the House bill that was put forth to the General Law Committee. It came somewhat of a surprise, to us, seeing that there was going to be a hearing this past, it was a week ago Monday. And so the concerns that I have, I think you all shared, and I think the society shares as well as many other people that have expressed opposition to the House bill, is around what it's effectively doing to our board, and co-sharing of enforcement responsibilities with the DCP. Basically, would allow them to move forward on the conducting of hearings and final decisions around enforcement matters that involved CPA the CPA licensees and firms when it's clear that this profession is relatively complicated and complex, and there aren't resident CPAs within DCP that would be able to adjudicate these, we believe, properly, and hence that's the purpose of having the board in the first place. So there's some strong opposition that, again, we have to the House bill at this point. We continue to work through the process. Bonnie's been very helpful in this as well, in reaching out to legislators and making sure they understand our concerns collectively as a CPA community around those proposed changes. But Bonnie, is anything you want to share, further updates? I know you and I have been conversing in terms of our next steps to have certain meetings to make sure the right people are informed of what we believe this actually does versus what they're intending for it to do.
I think that there's two things that people should know about. One, since this bill was published and the word's gotten out about it, we have received, CTCPA has actually received quite a few calls of concern related to enforcement authorities that the board has not been involved in. So we need to investigate those ourselves to make sure that what we're being told fits in with the current structure for enforcement and the people's knowledge that are handling those issues. So that's just out there that we need to do some more investigation ourselves, and we are doing that. In addition to that, one of the greatest concerns I have is when speaking with one of our members, we were told, hey, FYI, this bill could have a significant impact. It could impact Connecticut's mobility. So if this measure were to move forward and you had individuals that don't have expertise in accountancy, that could then take away Connecticut's mobility. And that is a major, major concern. It's one of the reasons why we didn't move forward with the pathways initially, making sure that we got in sync with the rest of the country. So the concerns that we initially had with the bill remain, but I would say they have grown, not lessened. And so we are doing our due diligence to make sure that we're getting all the facts straight. But at this point, just for full disclosure, this for us would be a die on the sword issue at CTCPA if it impacts mobility. So it has raised, it has grown in concern, not lessened. I will say what Tim says is absolutely true. The people that we are working with at DCP and at the legislature are being great. We just want to make sure that we're doing everything we should be doing to make sure that the public's protected, that the CPA community has the ability to practice, et cetera. But I do think that mobility issue is a very important one because I was not aware of it when we first started looking at the bill.
Yeah. Thank you, Bonnie. Yeah, and we've had and continue to have conversations with NASBA. NASBA helps all state boards in respect of the Uniform Accountancy Act and the model law that we all follow, and there's a high interest in every jurisdiction to maintain mobility. And to the extent this bill going through and potentially threatening that is, we just need to make sure people understand the consequences of this bill going through as currently written. And again, if there's some issues that need to be tightened up, as we understand, there may be around investigatory rights and responsibilities. We want to make sure that stuff gets addressed, but also doesn't end up causing unintended consequences here. So, any discussion on this? I see Carla. I see your hand raised.
Yes, I figured out how to raise my hand electronically. So anyway, Bonnie, are you going? I'm sorry, my cat sat on my keyboard and threw me out of Zoom, so I got back kicked her off my desk and got back on. So I missed a little bit of what you said, Bonnie, but if there's any way that any of us can contact individual legislators or something like that, who, who are on appropriate, given where the document is now, I think we all ought to try to do that because affecting mobility is extremely serious.
Agreed. Tomorrow, the General Law Committee, which is what this issue is before, has a huge hearing on data breaches and AI, et cetera. So that's where the chair's heads are right now. That actually helps us because it gives us a chance to do what we needed to do. But I would say following that hearing tomorrow, outreach to the people on the committee is very important because during the hearing, we had it during the blizzard. I think that was the day of the blizzard. And so you didn't have the opportunity to see anybody in person. It was totally virtual. And I know at the end of my testimony, before I got to the end, I lost electricity in the house.
Oh, no.
And so neither Tim nor I had the opportunity to follow up with legislators individually. And I think that's very important because we are unique as a profession, as you know, with mobility. There is not another profession in our country that has it. And it is something that is heavily valued. So I appreciate that. I will identify legislators for individuals. And we do have some CPAs at the legislature that understand that as well, that are not on the committee, but are in positions of leadership that tapping into would be a good idea, just to clue them in, because at some point this may come before them. I would like to say that DCP leadership has been open to discussions as well. So I don't want to make it sound like they're closed doors. That's not the case. It's a short session. And that just means it's a much shorter period of time we've got where things tend to be, the short session's chaotic all the time. It doesn't have anything to do with it anyway. So we just need to be aware of that because something can be sitting today and move tomorrow. So touching base with people before you find out something's on what they call the go list is really important.
Thank you.
Tim, it's Bud. Just a
Yes.
quick question.
Hey, Bud. Yeah.
Is there someone at DCP who's still pushing for this language? Is that where this current status, or do they understand our concerns and are working with us to change the language back to where we're comfortable?
Well, I've traded emails with legislative director within DCP. The last one I had shared was in response to his offer to looking to partner with us and to find the right language. So I've obviously accepted that as an interest that we have as a board. And also continuing to express our concerns with the current language. I've not yet heard back from DCP in that regard, but Bonnie has been in touch with others within DCP and looking to potentially get us an in-person meeting at DCP to, again, so we can express the concerns that we have and why, and just make sure everyone has a full understanding of what this bill actually would do. And again, it's doing more than I think maybe they intend to do to fix their whatever issue they believe they have, and they want to tighten up within statute. But we're doing everything we can to make sure we stay in front of the right people to make sure they're educated on this, and ultimately, hopefully, land in a good place for everyone.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the House bill?
Is there a reason they didn't run it by us beforehand, Tim? Or I guess I'm trying to understand the process and what happened. It just seemed to come out of left field. It just seemed like if they had talked to us in advance, it would have, I don't
disagree, Pete. I think the intention was for us to work through these matters together. If there's anything that's affecting the board or vice versa, make sure we're on the same page. I'm not sure exactly why it may have slipped, but the first that John and I saw this, and then Bonnie, I think you saw a copy of this the following day, was early February, like February 4th.
Yeah.
Again, to which I immediately responded, I've got some concerns, let's connect. And then the next thing we saw was the House bill
Okay.
that was already submitted, and a hearing was scheduled. So we really had to rally. So those are the things that, I think important to, if we can have the meeting with some of the DCP leadership to talk about these things. How do we, what went wrong here? How do we change the process
Okay.
to make it better? We all want to do the right thing. So, but again, unfortunately, this one played out the way it has so far.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Bonnie.
I just think one important thing to keep in mind is this is not new in the sense, remember last year during session, we had something pop up out of the blue that we had concerns with. We were lucky that it was pulled last year. This is not, this is something DCP cares about, that they've come back 2 years with this issue. So I just want to raise that again, because last year we raised significant concerns, said we'd work on it over the summer with them. And, DCP is a large agency. They have a lot of things they cover, and Lord knows we all have a lot on our plates. But I think that I think it's important that we know that this is something, it's kind of like year 2 and without the discussions. So I just want to reinforce what Tim said, that it's not simply an issue of a piece of legislation. Our desire is to have a conversation where we talk about the importance of exchanging information, because Connecticut is unique in that DCP does things without informing the board. And in all of the other states, for example, Rhode Island, that's the Board of Accountancy is in their Department of Business Regulations. They bring those enforcement procedures, those investigations, they make the board aware of it before they move forward. That does not happen in Connecticut. So you oftentimes as a board are not aware of what DCP is doing behind the scenes, and what let's call them cases, issues, et cetera, they're choosing to follow, not follow, et cetera. So as we work on this issue, I think it's important that we not look at it as just 5222 in this one thing. It's how do we make sure that the system as a whole is running the way it's intended, because it's my understanding that's where the mobility issue comes in. And Tim, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that was my take on the discussion we had regarding timely, proper pursuits of issues, resolutions, et cetera. There were a number of things raised that I had not been aware of. So it just doesn't mean that we can't fix them, but it's just something for us to be aware of as a whole, because our board really operates a little bit uniquely in that you're more limited into the information that's shared with you than any other state board in the country.
Thank you, Bonnie. Any others?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't help but comment. As a non-CPA member, just looking at this from a lawyer's perspective, the idea of kind of double regulation, double oversight bodies is just a nightmare to me. And I think that I would not recommend it for anyone who's under state or federal regulation. If it can be avoided, you're just asking for situations where something is okay by one body but not okay by the other, and you just don't know when you're going to run afoul of one or the other. I think it's just a bad idea, not just for CPAs but for others as well. And I guess in general, my question is, what does the governor, who's appointed us here, and DCP want from us? I mean, I think we kind of used to, my understanding, and I wasn't here obviously, is that we used to be a bit more of an independent body. and we've become more affiliated with DCP. I mean, what's the plan here? If they're not telling us things and they're trying to pass regulation that impacts the board and CPAs, I'm just curious are we not reading between the lines or something, I guess is my thought, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Yeah, I mean, it's again, I think we just need to make sure we're on the same page with them, because I think their intention, as they've expressed it to me and to John previously on a call last year, and what's in this bill are very different. And we were not aware of it going in this direction at all. So, but valid, questions and concerns that you've raised, Robert, that I think many of us likely share.
I will add that, yeah, I can understand the point about dual, but it's never been an issue. We never had a problem dealing with it, and where it was question of law, DCP kind of led, and when it was something of ethics, the board, which had the experience and the background, and they did not, did, and so this was kind of a radical departure from that.
Yeah. But my one initial thought, and my last thought here that I'll share is, when there's change being introduced, I sit back and say, why? In this case, I'm asking myself, what's broken? Like, what was broken? And again, I understood what was broken from at least what DCP had shared was there was some questions around their authority to administer oaths and do investigations. So there was a potential need to tighten the statute in that regard. Okay, let's talk about how we do that, and be very certain. I use the word surgical. Right? You can be very surgical. We can, we think you have that right now, but if there's something else that needs to be done in the Accountancy Act, let's address that. So anyway, that's just what I always look back to, and then I look at what's proposed to what was in theory broken, and it's much more than addressing the broken issue from my perspective. Carla, yes, please.
Yeah, I just, this has been a long discussion, but I do want to add that it sounds like to me from our discussion, we need to get through what's happening right now, but at the end of the session or this summer, whatever, I think representatives of our board need to sit down with the commissioner of Consumer Protection and the Investigations Division and just have a little talk with them. There may be things they're not even aware of about how things have happened in the past and how we perceive they're stepping on our toes. And so we just need to have a discussion with them, but this is not the time because we got to get through the session and the issues with this bill. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you, Carla. Okay. Why don't we, good discussion. Thank you all. Why don't we move on to our next report and final report is, I had asked Rochelle to share with the board. There's an agenda that, well, let me take a step back. The relations with member boards at NASBA is comprised of each of the regional directors, and there's 8 of us that are also on the board at NASBA. So I cover the Northeast, and I have counterparts in other parts of the country that cover the other regions. Outside of the formal conferences in order to stay in touch with and stay abreast of issues that NASBA is working on and also what's happening at the state board level, there are calls, and there are two calls that we schedule. One that happens in the February-March timeframe, and the other is in August, September. And the calls are open invitations to the chairs of each of the state boards and the executive directors. And there are a number of questions that NASBA prepares in advance to solicit information from the state boards in terms of what's going on, but also it's a venue for the state boards to talk about what's happening at their level and within their states, and for other state board chairs and EDs to understand what's happening there and how it might impact, their own state, whether it be mobility issues and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure the board was aware that this was going on, because, what happens is, as the chair, John previously and now myself, and I'm also still the regional director, so I'll be hosting this call, but also serving as the chair. There are, topics that are raised that I'm expected to, and John's expected to kind of make comment on in terms of what's happening at the board level. But I thought, why not make it a practice to share it with the full board so you can see what's being asked, and if there's anything that you feel you have points of view on that you want me to convey in terms of what's happening at our state board level, that I consider that when I respond to some of these questions. So that was really the purpose of sharing this. The other was just a couple of things to highlight and run by you. The first was in the first question, there's a lot of interest by NASBA in trying to understand which state boards are planning to submit a response to the peak exposure draft on alternative practice structures, dealing with private equity, specific to independence. And the reason for that is, and NASBA is in the process of preparing its own response, but the initial take from some of the calls that I've already participated on, these regional calls, and what we're hearing at NASBA is this peak exposure draft is it's highly, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it yourself, but it really introduces a lot of complexities and challenges to, a basic premise around someone trying to determine whether they're independent or not for the purposes of performing attestation or audit work. And what it does importantly is the definition of independence under the current AICPA Code of Conduct. It deals with needing to be independence in appearance and independence in fact. This APS peak exposure draft on independence is kind of moving away from the relevance of independence in appearance and focused more on a principles-based approach to assessing independence in the relationships that these private equity structures and entities might have with their investee audit firms that they own, and other businesses within, let's say, their own network. And there's a lot of concern about that because of, anytime you go from something that was more rule-based, which basically says, you can't do audits of certain entities to the extent if you have certain relationships with your audit client, there's certain services you can't perform. You can't own the client stock. Things that are very objective to apply. This is kind of moving away from that, and so there are some concerns around that because it's going to be difficult to apply in practice. And if you can't, and trust me, I've read this thing at least 2 or 3 times. And, I've CPA my entire life, and it's extremely difficult to really understand what's happening. And so, if many CPAs can't understand it, how are we to apply those rules? How is peer review going to be able to assess compliance, with a standard that's so difficult? And really, how are state boards going to enforce something that people don't understand? So I say that because they're highly encouraging, if at all possible, that state boards also submit a response to the exposure draft. Now there's I think, if it's 18 plus questions within highly complex matters. As a state board, we don't have a full-time ED that can sit there and prepare a draft for something so complex. So the only way it would get done is if one of us were to put something together. And uh, what I would propose, if you're open to it, is I'd be willing to prepare a response for the board to consider maybe submitting. It would be very high level without getting into the weeds, but maybe just commenting on the concerns around, moving away from independence and appearance to this new model, and just how complex it is, which would make it difficult to, I think, for state boards to enforce. So I'd be open to preparing something over the next month or so and sharing with the board. And, to the extent you feel like it's something that we should be responding to, and you'd be open to having me submit that on the board's behalf, I'd be happy to do that. So just wanted to share that with you. And I don't know if there's any concerns about that as an approach. And if not, again, over the course of the next few weeks, when I have some time, I'll draft something for you to review and consider. Okay. And the only other thing I thought I'd ask is there, and Kat's going to be at this meeting as well. So we haven't discussed anything around CPE at this point. There's question C here that talks about accounting concentration, which we've already been through. To the extent the NASBA Education Committee, which Sohair is on, and the UAA committee, if they were to come up with some other guidance around that, I'm sure that would be brought to our attention and we can reconsider accounting concentration. But at this level, I think we had a brief discussion about this, but I just wanted to confirm. On the CPE front, again, the NASBA Education Committee and the UAA committee are also considering that. And so here, I don't know if there's any new information you have in terms of where that stands, but as this develops, it's something that I think as a board, we may want to have a conversation around.
Yeah, during our last meeting, as I reported, it was top of agenda, but due to the snowstorms, our meetings were canceled this year and they haven't been rescheduled yet, so I don't have further updates, but it's an ongoing conversation.
Okay, great. All right. So just to give you a heads up that those things are going on. And the last item is, I'm going to sell you guys again. I've tried to sell you before, but I'll try to sell you again. The Eastern Regional meeting for NASBA is happening in Puerto Rico in June 9th to the 11th. And you notice at the bottom, there are 2 scholarships that are available to our state board members, since we don't have a budget, and we have financial challenges that way. NASBA will offer scholarships to the conference itself, as well as basically all of your expenses other than getting to and from the airport from your home. So very generous offer. I will obviously be there as the regional director. The regional directors basically run those and host those meetings. A number of great topics. I would encourage, Robert's been to a meeting. I know Bud's been to at least a day down in New York. Kat, I believe you're planning to attend, I hope. But I just wanted to if anyone has any interest, the scholarships open up effective April 1st. If you have any questions around it, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you, but it would be awesome to have
Yeah.
some additional attendance from Connecticut at these meetings, because we do have regional breakout meetings and the conversations are really, really rich and rewarding. I think you'd find it to be a good use of your time if it works within your schedules. That's it. It's my sales pitch. Any questions on what I just shared in terms of the process that I do, or what we're planning to discuss at our next meeting? All right. That concludes the report section of today's business. We're now into item 5, which is our unfinished business from our last meeting, which we've changed it from it used to be old business. Now it's unfinished business. Kat and I, NASBA puts on different webinars, and there was one where they covered a refresher on Robert's rules and the sort, and they went over typical meeting agendas. And this person was very, very strongly opinionated, said there is no old business, it's only unfinished. So we revised the agenda. So we have one item as unfinished business. It's the exam credit extension request by Anishita Cheda. I believe she has shared some additional information that was requested. Is that
Correct. At the last
correct.
meeting, the
Mhm.
last meeting, the board tabled it because there was a question about exactly what the information was. So I reached out to her and she provided the doctor's notes that was forwarded to the board. And she's still asking to extend her BEC credit from April 9, 2026 to October 6. So basically a 6 months extension.
Yeah. And if I recall, this is, I think on the first request, she may have noted it as good cause.
Correct.
And we were just a little curious, a little bit more color behind what that really meant. And it looks like it's not just good cause. It may be related to medical matters as well. So I think the additional information was helpful, I thought. So her request is for an extension through, is it December?
October 6th.
October 6th. Okay. I'll entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
Sure. In view of the documentation of the psychotherapy sessions, I move to approve the exam extension request.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
We've got a move. We've got a second. I think John may have been first before Robert. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Any against? Okay. The ayes have it. Motion has passed. Thank you. We're on to item 6, new business. So the first item, additional options for experience eligible for licensure. So, and I believe Kat has shared with the committee the existing regs around experience. You may recall at a recent meeting, I think it may, whether it was the January meeting or the one prior to that, we did have an applicant who had experience that was not supervised by a CPA. And our current regs, as written, require supervision and sign off by that supervisor and/or in some cases HR under the direction that that CPA had supervised them. And so we wanted to revisit that One, because I think after that last case where we had to deny that experience application because it was not supervised by a CPA and could not be signed off by one, I think at least some of us thought that the experience that the individual was articulating arguably sounded very compelling in terms of the things he was doing and had done over the course of his career. He was, not just fresh out of school, so someone that was fairly experienced. So, I think we made a commitment to come back and revisit that and just try to understand, if there's another path that we should be considering and what are other states doing. So Kat and I are in the process of collecting information from the other states in terms of what they do, just to inform us in terms of what others might be doing this in this area. I do know, I saw the North Carolina newsletter recently where there are situations where experience can be verified or obtained not being under the supervision of a CPA. As an example, if you're an educator and you taught accounting courses for maybe 4 years or so, that may be able to qualify. In Rhode Island, I understand that CPA verification is required, but it does not have to be vis-a-vis direct supervision. So just something different from what we do in Connecticut. So just wanted to share that. Again, I think our commitment was to come back to revisit this. We're in the process of collecting some additional information that we'll share with the board, perhaps prior to our next meeting, and just have a dialogue around it. What we see others are doing, and do we as a board feel like there's another path we can or should take to make sure that people that may not have obtained that supervision or obtained that experience under direct supervision potentially has a path to becoming a CPA in light of other things that they could prove and verify based on experience obtained. So any questions or comments or concerns around that as a next step? Yes, Carla. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was trying to get off mute. I think that the work you and Kat are doing there is really good, and I think we're sort of behind the times in the really restricted option, for our criteria. So I just wanted to say I think that's a really good idea.
Okay, any others? All right. Well, thank you. Well, stay tuned. We will, more information will be forthcoming, and look forward to having a great dialogue around this and seeing if there's, again, things that we think should be addressed within the current regs to permit something outside of direct supervision. All right, item B, exam credit extension requests. We have 3. And the first is Andrew McGibbon. Who's going to
Yes,
walk us through that? Kat?
Sure, he asked to extend his AUD credit from it currently expires January 10th to 2026. Originally, he asked to extend it through April 10th, but yesterday he emailed to say that he's asking to extend it through the end of the year. And it's for good cause, and I have forwarded his documentation to the board.
I just want to say good morning and welcome to Andrew, who's here with us.
Oh,
Good morning, all. How are you doing?
good morning, Andrew. Thank you, Sohair.
And with that, I will move to approve the exam extension request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Andrew McGibbon's extension request. Any seconds?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Danny, thank you. We get Danny's second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? Okay, the motion is passed. Andrew, congratulations with the extension request and good luck getting things wrapped up. We know you'll put the good work in and get it done.
Thanks so much to you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we next have extension request by Pavel Ramirez, and I notice, Pavel, you've joined us. Welcome. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
You can speak for yourself if you like, but the request we received was to extend his audit credit from February 22nd, 2026 to the end of the year, minus 1 day, December 30th, 2026, for good cause. And I forwarded the documentation to the board.
Great. Thank you, Kat. Okay, hopefully everyone's had a chance to review Pavel's request. Would anyone like to make a motion on this?
I will go ahead and move to approve the exam extension request for Pavel.
Okay,
I'll second.
great. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the request? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, none against. Motion has passed. Congratulations, Pavel.
Thank you, everybody.
Good luck. You get
Thank
it
you so
done.
much. Appreciate it.
Okay. And one additional request. We've got Dan Zhang.
She's requesting to extend her BEC credit from June 26th, 2026 to the end of the year, December 31st, 2026, for medical reason. And I've forwarded the documentation to the board.
Good. Thank you, Kat. Right. We have a motion on Dan's request.
I'll move to approve.
All right. Thank you, John. Motion to approve. A second. Anyone? Carla? Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay. The exam credit extension request for Dan Zhang is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes care of our new business. Item 7, comments or concerns of any person present today. Just do a scan, make sure we're good. Okay.
There's a
see
hand,
none.
I see
there's a hand
Joseph.
raised.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. Oh, Joseph Wagner. I'm sorry. I just noticed that. Yes, Joseph.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to share with you my situation as it relates to one of the items you brought up earlier about the additional options for experience. I did attend the previous meeting with the individual you were talking about that seems to have spurred some of this conversation. So real quick, my background in the early 2000s, I worked for Anderson for a few years before they closed. Worked at PwC for almost 2 years and in the Cigna tax department. And then I left to work for the state of Connecticut in financial roles. And since 2005, approximately. In that time, I also worked part-time for a local CPA in Connecticut. And, I finally decided after all this time that I wanted to complete the exam and move on from state service at some point. So I finished the exam in August, and then I really in earnest started looking at, qualifying to get my license. And there's a few things that, ended up kicking me out based on the rules as they exist. One is the 10 experience requirement has to be within 10 years. Although I worked part-time for a CPA for the last 10 years, it didn't meet on a part-time basis the total amount that I would need to step over the bar. And the other thing is, although I work for the state of Connecticut, I'm a fiscal manager, and I manage the internal audit unit of the Department of Motor Vehicles. But that experience, because I don't work for a CPA, rules me out as well. And I know there is an exception for the auditors of public accounts, but there's only an exemption that exists for them if they are not directly supervised by a CPA. Currently, I 10 years ago, I moved to Rhode Island, although I work in Connecticut. I investigated Rhode Island, and it looks like I'm going to be applying in Rhode Island. The one major difference was that the requirement to have all my experience completed within the last 10 years does not exist. So I just thought I'd share that with you as you're thinking about other things. I know that there's nothing that can change in the time frame that I'm looking to complete my license. So I'm going to move forward with getting my license in Rhode Island and eventually Connecticut. But I just thought it might be helpful to share all those little different nuances with you. And I seem to hit all the wrong corners of trying to get over the bar. So, but the rules are the rules. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joseph. We're at least sympathetic to your the trials and tribulations that you've experienced, and if there are others like you out there, right? That
I know I'm an anomaly, but
yeah, no, but those are situations that hopefully the system doesn't block for the wrong reasons, and I think we're committed, to change for the right reasons in the right direction is
sure.
certainly in favor of doing those things. And again, I think our board is committed to. We're going to do the research. We're going to have a good dialogue around this, and I think we'll land in a good place, because it does warrant some good conversation, because again, there's some consequences that are impacting people that I don't know if it was ever intended to be that way, and especially in today's modern times, in terms of how people go about getting their experience that could be relevant to licensure.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay. All right. Any other things to raise? Okay, it looks like we are through the agenda for today. I will ask for a motion to adjourn if you so will.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Robert, got the motion.
I'll second.
A second? All right, so Hare's in there for the second. We are officially adjourned. I don't know if we have to
Thanks, everybody.
vote on that. I think we're all in favor here. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and yeah, we'll be in touch as we need to be over the course of the next weeks around the House bill if necessary, to make sure we stay engaged and keep you guys updated. But I appreciate it again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
All right.
Have a good day,
Thanks,
everyone.
Ron. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.